Last time on Cruising Joan Lynn.
A plan is put into motion to navigate the Joan Lynn into the center of the island.
What I want to do is the wind is going to take me right into that dock. It said that they gathered treasure and brought it to the island and hid it. And the last man died and took the secret of the treasure with him when he died. I squeeze my lemons. Do you squeeze yours?
We spend 2 nights at the KOA camp on Association Island. This episode of Cruising Joan Lynn.
Let's begin now.
360. I woke up this morning and I said, instead of waiting for a good day to happen, waiting around through ups and downs, I just said, look.
We're gonna have a good day, and all my homies wanna ride today, and all these mommies look fly today, and all we wanna do is get by today. Hey, we're gonna have a good day, and ain't nobody gotta cry today, 'cause ain't nobody gonna die today. You can save that trouble for another day. Hey, we're gonna have a good day.
After reporting back to the United States in Sackett's Harbor, the crew of the Joan Lynn headed to the KOA camp on Association Island to spend the remaining 2 nights of this cruise.
There's some things I want to tell you.
What's going on?
Come lie down with me. I just want to be with you right now.
Association Island in Jefferson County, New York, was once part of a continuous protrusion of land known in the 19th century as Sixtown Point. Erosion from Lake Ontario waves divided Sixtown Point into several small islands sometime prior to 1898. In the early 1900s, the island was bought and sold between electric companies until 1959, when General Electric donated it to the YMCA. In the mid-1900s, it was used as a summer camp and then the headquarters for sailing competitions until 1999, when it was acquired by Kampgrounds of America and became the RV campground in Marina it is today.
After we set up the boat and did some laundry,
Just like at home.
we rented the boys a golf cart and took a bike ride with our new folding bicycles. Not a good idea because no matter how hard Joan and I pedaled, we could not shake them off. In the afternoon of our first date, we also spent some time in the camp's game room.
Guys, this isn't tennis.
got here at 10 o'clock this morning, and it is now 8:07, and it has been a very full day. Long day. Feels like a long day, but in a good way. We have been to the pool a couple times. We went bike riding a couple times. The boys have been carting around in the golf cart, and we've been at the clubhouse. We've had a nice lunch. We had a nice dinner, and it's still 8 o'clock, and we still have coffee to make and movies to watch. And this was a really good day.
I like the clubhouse, and I like the water. I like the sunset.
This is a nice way to end the day. It's a nice sunset.
Kids really enjoy this stop because of all the things available for them to do. Joan and I went looking for a small boat for my bike at the camp store, but didn't find what we were looking for. We had another full day of swimming, biking, and enjoying family time together. It's about 5:30 in the evening on our last day here, our last day of this cruise, and tomorrow we'll be leaving probably sometime in the late afternoon back to Rochester to end this trip. We're keeping a pretty close eye on the weather, and as you can see, it looks as though there's a whole bunch of rain in the area, but it's kind of staying away from Lake Ontario for the time being. And tomorrow, I'm calling for partly cloudy skies with a slight chance of a thunderstorm here and there, not a big worry, hopefully, and waves less than a foot. So that doesn't count for swells, unfortunately. Swells can be massive and a pain in the butt, slow us down, but we'll see. Burritos for lunch, courtesy of Dad.
There were some 3-footers out on the east side of the lake that morning, and cruising was a bit pounding at first. But as we moved further out into the sea, the lake calmed itself. However,
we are stopped in the middle of Lake Ontario. We're about, 2 hours into our journey back home, and we are currently 18.7 miles away from the closest shoreline, which puts us almost in the middle of Lake Ontario at this end of the east end. And we are 34 miles away from the Port of Rochester as the crow flies. And on our way out, we had a little bit of a scare. We were probably about 20 minutes into our trip. We had just headed out to sea pretty much. We were probably 15, 20 miles away from shore when I just heard something funny going on. The Joan Lynn began emitting a slightly abnormal sound from the engine that sounded somewhat related to the exhaust. Didn't see any alarms, or no alarms came in or anything like that for the boat. First thing I did was check to see if we're on fire. We're not. And check to see if we're taking out water, number 2, and we weren't. I took a look at the radar to see if there were any vessels nearby that could help us in case we had a problem. And as it turns out, there was a sailboat probably about 6-8 miles away. So it just sounded to me like maybe it was an exhaust problem or something with the lower units. I thought maybe something was caught in there. We came to a stop at one point, and Joan checked the propellers to make sure there was anything caught in them, any seaweed or anything. We took the opportunity to all stop and drift to have lunch. While Joan prepared sandwiches for us, I inspected the lower unit and trim tabs with a camera to ensure that everything appeared working, not leaking, and unobstructed. At one point, we were going around 25 miles an hour, and I raised the lower unit higher than where you'd normally have it, and then all of a sudden the noise disappeared and I haven't heard it. We chalked the problem up to an obstruction, possibly biological, as the slip we had stayed in for 2 days was chock full of seaweed at the stern. Joan gave the crew a pep talk before firing up the engine.
Everybody's going to need to pitch in, everybody's going to need to grit through it, even though nobody feels like cleaning up and nobody feels like doing this. You know, none of us are going to feel like doing it. But if we can all work together, many hands make light work.
And we were off to Rochester without further incident.
Ride, Captain, ride upon your mystery ship. Be amazed at the friends you have here on your trip. Ride, Captain, ride upon your mystery ship. On your way to a world that others might have missed.
Next time on Cruising Joan Lynn. Jim and Tyler cross Lake Ontario and spend 6 nights docked at the Port of Whitby Marina in Ontario, Canada. They find the perfect bike trail which takes them through several parks along the lakeshore and to various points of interest.
Beautiful views and a beautiful bike path.
A Wi-Fi issue aboard the Joan Lynn prevents movie streaming and has them scrambling to find a DVD movie store in town.
99 bottles of beer on the wall. Apparently our Wi-Fi doesn't really work well in the boat in Canada, so we are stuck with no movie streaming capabilities.
And on their second day, Jim and Tyler take the train to the city of Toronto, where Jim wants to see big fish.
I want to see the really, really big fish.